Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again. Mishmash Monday. Got a few things to talk about. Again, we're going to be dealing with some clamps because the challenge is coming up, and I'm really psyched to see, especially some of the international entries are going to be great. So looking forward to that. That's less than 2 weeks. But what we're going to do is we're going to work on a couple clamps that were sent in from a couple friends of the show. Let's go check it out. One of my favorite parts of this channel and this whole YouTube experience with our family and friends and different channels doing the same restorations and things like that is we pick up skills and tricks of the trade and things like that we normally wouldn't pick up. And I love it when we get challenged by other creators and subscribers. And that's just what happened today. I got a box from Todd Naush, you know him from the Country Peddler. And I also got a box from Gerry. And Gerry's you've probably seen his knife, his entry up here. Gerry is a former Marine, a subscriber, good friend of the show. And this was his 199 challenge entry, and I got that hanging over the bench there. So, but Gerry sent in some projects, and so did Todd, that we're going to take a look at now. Todd said this beautiful box of tools and things like that he said, and he wrote in a lovely letter. He's like, you know, some of the things that are a little bit too much challenge or past, or you don't have the equipment to fix and things like that. So, or some of the things that he had doubles of, but he sent some really cool stuff that we're going to be doing in future episodes. But, you know, different tools, and of course, you know how I like the auto wrenches, and this one here, you can see it's an old National, but you don't see too many of these. But this clamp is what we're going to focus on. This one here, you can see it's bent, and it looks pretty messed up. And this is a good challenge. You know, I love a good challenge. So we're going to check. Now, Gerry out of West Virginia had sent these in. Now, this is a real common problem we have with a lot of clamps, right? And that's the missing pads, and that is something that's plaguing, you know, I mean, and you know, they're such a pain to make on the lathe, because especially with a smaller lathe, because the way you have to position the metal and turn it out, and it's a little more difficult. But I've been trying to come up with a better way to do it that the average person can make one if you ever had to replace these. But this one here, this clamp is slightly bent, and also we got some rod issues here. But let's work on a couple things and see what we could do, like the average person could do without a dake or something. Okay, we're going to start with Todd's clamp first, but first we're going to wire brush it, because this way we can see if there's any stress cracks or anything. So let's get to that. Now, I always prefer working with these type of clamps, because these, the flat-sided here, can fit into the vise very easily to let you work on it. You can see here we have a couple problems here. So not only is it bent, you can see it's skewed to the right, but it's also bent this way, cocked this way, and it's not allowing it to close. So we have to bring this that way, and we have to bring turn it that way. Turning it this way is no problem, but bringing it down is a little bit more. And again, I'm trying to do this without the dake, you know. So let's see. We're gonna nice, like I said, you can clamp it into the vise, get a really good purchase on here, and then we always take a big crescent wrench, put it on here, and bend it, just using a little bit of force, bending it over. When I say big crescent wrench, here's your typical 10-inch. Yeah, that's pretty big, a 10-inch crescent wrench. But look at that compared to the 18-inch, you know? And look at the size, the heft. This is what you want to use. They're always good to have. I mean, it's super heavy. You wouldn't use this for anything else, but it's great for bending and things like that, for mooring. And it's adjustable. So we did this on a video. We restored this one. So now, if there's any kind of coolness on your clamp, it should be warm to the touch. And I always like to use a little bit of a heat just around here. And it doesn't have to be red hot or anything. Just a little bit of heat, so that it kind of softens up the molecules when you try and bend it. Because some of these were cast steel, and sometimes, you know, they could crack or something. But a little bit of heat will always give you you can't hurt, but again, you don't want to make it red hot or anything. There's no need for that. Okay, now we're just going to give a little, first we're going to turn to one side, put this on here like this, tighten it down a little bit, just make it snug, and we'll just give it a turn to the left here. And you can see you always got to go just a little bit past to straighten it out. But there we go. Now that's straight. Now we got to bring it this way. Now, we got this very close to straight, you know, it's pretty good. But now, like I said, we have to bring this side over. Now, don't ever, ever think that you could press on these threads to bend this down. This is, you'll bend the thread, you'll crack the thread. So always, you know, leave the threads alone. The best way to do this would to grind out here, remove the foot and take the whole threaded portion out, and then you could have access to this to bend it. But we're trying to get around doing that because then you'll have a problem putting this foot back on. So we're trying to figure out a way now to hold this and to be able to bend it that way. Without removing that threaded portion of the clamp, I think the only way we can straighten that, to get that bend back down, is with the dake. And I know you're disappointed, but we're going to have to use the dake. Okay, here we are at the dake, everybody's favorite. Now, here's going to be the setup. I put 2 steel plates on top of the base plate here, and just wide enough that it'll hold the clay. See how it's resting on the side? We don't want to rest right on the edge here. Should be strong enough. Now I'm going to try and push down on this edge here and see if we get any movement that way. Now a lot of times this, you know, you think it might want to pop out with some force, but believe it or not, there's not a lot of spring force back there. But we're going to slowly, that's what's great about the hydraulics, is you could slowly add pressure, which we're doing, and you can see it's working. It's coming down. You see this area here. Okay, we're going to stop and take a look at it because that's pretty straight. Now let's see what we got here. Okay, well, that's pretty good. It's getting there. A little bit more. We get that little bit of gap to close. Okay, so far we're doing good. We only have about a 1/16 of an inch there for not closing, but the clamp, you can see it's straight this way. It's straight this way. It works well. The only problem, see how it works nice. Here's the problem. We got a little bit of a fin wave, if you could see here in the back. Now we need to straighten that out. Let me show you how you do that. See that? It's a little bit of a curve here. I'm going to show you how we straighten that out. Okay, here we are, Great Grandpa's vise. Now, again, like I said, why I like working on these clamps is they're kind of easy to fix. Put it in here, clamp it around the edge. You see that edge there? Get a good clamp, and you got to make sure it's, and this is where smooth jaws come in handy. If you don't have smooth jaws, you're going to need some kind of jaw protector. Now, tightening this up, if you look over the top here, there's a bird's eye view. You can see we have a little bit of a crooked situation there, but that's no problem because we'll take the crescent wrench and bend it around. Okay, so here we have Todd's clamp, nice and straight now. And, you know, this is what I was saying about. This is a challenge, but this was kind of a fun challenge because now, you know, we were able to take a clamp that, you know, kind of looked a little disheveled or whatever. And you know, these older clamps, they're not, they weren't made specifically like the ones that are malleable, the heavy-duty forged ones. But now this clamp can be put back in service. It's straight in the back here. And now we just got to figure out what we want to do with it. Okay, let's see what's next up. We got Gerry's clamp, the small one, and the small one, the big one, has some different issues, but the small one, only it needs is a foot here. Now we got a piece of bar stock, steel bar stock, and we're going to have to cut off a section. Now normally you would feed this through the lathe and you would work on it that way, but my lathe won't take this size, so I got to cut off a small piece and then cut it again. That's why it's a pain with my lathe, but we're going to cut off a piece here and see what we can do to make a replacement foot. Okay, now the first thing we did is we drilled a little hole, you could see here, drilled a little hole in the end of that stock and made sure that this fits around the ball like this. And this is the way you want this to fit. Do you see there? It's going to have to swivel a little bit, and now we're going to have to relieve some of this outside area. But we got the size of the hole and the depth of the hole good. Now we're just going to have to take away some of this outside area. Okay, obviously now's the time to do any kind of wire brushing or cleaning up because the parts all come apart. But now we're going to assemble everything we did here. We put some slots in the top here, and that'll be able to peen over and keep it in. And this is what the little cap looks like. So let's put it together. Okay, we're calling Gerry's clamp done. That came out nice, right? And you can see how it works here. Obviously it can't pull off because we peened those over. And it locks up nice. You don't want to have too much play in it, you know, where it falls to the side. That's just perfect the way it is, and it kind of looks original to the clamp if it wasn't so shiny. But so that's the second fix. Let's see what we got now. Next up, we got Gerry's big clamp, and this one has a few issues. Number one, the threads are messed up over here. You can see it here. You see how the threads are messed up? So this is hard going in and out of here. You know, you can't just spin it in. Have to address that. Also, it is bent. We could see it's bent just from looking, but you can't really tell. So what you do is you take, if you have anything round or tapered or anything like that, and slip it through like this, and then you could see how it lines up. And you could see, if we look at it like this, you could see it's bent. And you know, you could do that a few different ways. The best way to find out is to look behind, and you could see here that that's not going to line up no matter what. You know, that's going off to the end. The good thing is now we can easily fix this because we don't have this threaded rod going through. So let's fix it up. Next up, you can see by using this file, it can give us a direction which way it's heading. If we look this way, you can see we have to go to the left a little bit. We have to bend it this way. And if you look at it level, you can see that it's going to overshoot the top. So we got to bend this down. And that's all easy with the adjustable wrench. Now here's the issue with this, the threads. Now you see the problem is the threads won't go in, it won't engage, and the simple reason is because these were pressed down. The same thing that expanded the clamp is what pushed this down. You can even see it's indented. So you're going to have to somehow using a punch going from underneath and just hitting that upper thread there and bang that around so that it undeforms the thread. Or you can, I'm going to file off a little bit and get to some good threads before I can do that. So that's the only way we're going to be able. This is all messed up here, but we'll go past. Okay, now we banged out a little bit that first layer of threads that was crushed, and what we're going to use, using a lot of oil, we're going to push this in. We were able to start the thread. You see now that's started. Now we're going to use this almost like a tap, and we're going to work it back and forth with a lot of oil, and it will hopefully straighten out those and clean out those threads, because this is kind of malleable and this is hard. So we're just going to work it back and forth with a lot of oil, and hopefully it'll straighten out the threads. Okay, we got the thread started. It's rough, it's tight, but it will loosen up because this will work the threads in. I put a little bit of heat on the inside of the threads to make them a little more malleable. And this is what I've been doing, turning like this, but it's very difficult with this short bar. If ever you got to use a cheetah bar on one of these, this is the best way that I found to do it. Take a smaller crescent wrench, not a big one, put it over here where the ball fits right in that little crook here, and pull it this way, and use your hand on the bottom like this. That's the only way you should use. Never try and bend this, that'll bend. So this keeps all the directional torque running right down the center line of the threads. So just like this, pull it, push down like that, and it does no damage, but it gives you extra leverage. Okay, here's where we're at. We ran it through a couple times, but it is still very hard to turn. You see this? So obviously the threads are buggered up somehow in there, and through the whole length it's hard to turn. I mean, this is unacceptable. So how do we loosen it up in there? I don't have a tap that I could run through that would make it clean up the threads, and it's tight all the way through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this lapping compound. Now all that is, it's like a grease and a grit, an abrasive grit, like a sandblasting grit or something. And we're going to wipe it on there, run it through a few times, and that should hopefully loosen up any of the tight areas. Okay, this is awesome. Only a couple minutes with the lapping compound, and check this out. Very smooth on here. Now we don't want to go too much because we don't want to take too much off of there. So this is nice and smooth. Now what I'm going to do is back it out, clean all that lapping compound off because it has grit in it, and then put fresh oil on it and see how it operates. Here's where we are. What I did was I cleaned out the threads really good on the inside. Let me show you that. Look at those threads in there. You know, they're perfect. You know, cleaned them all out. Sorry for the camera movement. And now what we're going to do, cleaned up the threads, and I did this all with a degreaser and a scrub brush and a toothbrush, and made sure that you can't have any of that lapping compound left in there. Then finally wiped it down with WD-40. It is as clean as a whistle. Now, we'll put this in here, and that's exactly what we want to see. See how that's feeding in there? That is just one finger. This is just what we wanted. No lubrication yet on there, just a little bit of WD-40. So, but look at that. That's exactly what we want. I'm so happy. This is my new best friend for tonight. Lapping compound. It's grease mixed with, this is grade E, which I don't know what that means, I guess, but it felt, you know, you couldn't really feel the grit too much, but you could feel it when you were pressing this, and it just fixed this just so nicely. Now, using that file method, we were able to get the threads, bending it very close. Look at that. We are almost perfect. Just might need a little tweaking, but we're right where we should be. Everything's nice and smooth. All we got to do now is make that little pad. Now, here's where machining gets fun and the challenge comes into play. Now, for the second foot of that vise, I'm going to use aluminum because this will be a little bit of softer, so I don't have to put pads underneath, and it's obviously easier to cut. And I just wanted to try it out. I want to try something new out. Now, you saw the way we did the other one. We folded the top over. I want to see if I can make this a press fit like they do at the... They got special machines that once it's on the clamp, it presses on. I don't have that. But what I wanted to do was I drilled, you know, using the drill here in the... what you always see me use here. I used the drill, and I got it pretty close. Now, here's the end of the threaded rod. You can see this would be considered almost a press fit because I can, you know, it's sticking in. It's just, I can probably press that in with the dake, you know, because it's that tight of a, you know, close. Now, what I would like to do is I would like to cut a recess on the inside of this so that when the ball gets pressed in there, it's captive. And to do that, we're going to use this little device. It's called a boring bar. Now, how this boring bar is going to work is I'm going to put the stock in here, the aluminum stock, and I'm going to advance the boring bar into that hole just past the edge. I don't want to take any off the outer edge. I want that to be a press fit. Then I'm going to go in there and try and make a little bit of a round cavity in there so that the ball can swivel. And I'll show you how that's done using this bar going back and forth. Okay, we got the dakes up, so we're over here, and this is the setup here. Now, you can see we have the little piece that came out very nicely. And what we're going to do here is try and press fit it in. I'm going to heat this up, which will expand the hole just a couple thousandths. Then we're going to put the clamp in like this, and hopefully just put a little bit of pressure and that should pop right in there, and I hope it works. Okay, we are calling this project done, and I have to say it was a very rewarding day. You know, every once in a while you get one of those days that just work out, and today was it. You know, first of all, we did Todd's clamp, and you know, this one works, and you remember what that one looked like. It was all bent up, and now that's back in service. Then we did Gerry's 2 clamps that were, this one was missing the tip. Did a nice job on that. Came out real nice. And of course this one was a real mess. I mean, it was bent, and it took a lot of work, and this came out nice, and look at that, pressed right on there, and just a beautiful little pad for here. And now we got this nice and smooth, 1 finger smooth. The lapping compound was really saved the day. I don't even know what this clamp is. It just says adjustable, made in the USA, and the number on it is 1480. It's an 8-inch clamp. But took it to the wire brush and took it all, the big wire brush, took it down. And now we're going to give these a coat of shellac, and that'll hold them until we decide what we want to do. But they're all back in service. 3 clamps that were seen better days, and they will now see better days again. Thanks so much for tuning in. Sorry this one went a little bit long. A lot of information here. Take care now. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.